More so than any other election, the Compromise of 1877 and the election of 1876 is proof positive that your vote as an American citizen counts and will be heard. Unless something bigger is at play. Mr. G here with AP with Mr. G. Let's take a look at what's going on. This election was so close. It was so close. 3 states are going to decide it. It was so close. 185 votes is what a candidate needed to win by this point, to give you an idea of the size of the country. In 2024, when I'm making this, it's 270 to win. So we've gotten a lot bigger since then. But 185 is what they needed. Samuel J. Tilden, the Democrat, had 184, and Rutherford B. Hayes, the Republican, had 165. And so with 185 being the magic number, either candidate could win. If Hayes gets all 3 states, he wins. If Tilden gets any one of them, he wins. Well, this is really close. So what the Congress did was it said, you know what, this is such a close election. Let's get an electoral commission established, and let's task them with overseeing the rest of the counting and the certifying of the election. Okay, well, power brokers within that commission, and some people will cite corruption, some cite political chicanery, they get together and they say, we can let the citizens vote and we can just sit back and see what happens and react. Or we as power brokers can say, maybe there's something that either side or that both sides want from this election that we can get if we come together and negotiate. Well, that's kind of fascinating, because then that means that the vote of the citizens in these last 3 states don't really count. Okay, well, we can set that aside, but what does each side want? Let's play devil's advocate here. Well, the North wants Rutherford B. Hayes in as president. We've had kind of some lackluster presidents, and we just, haven't been thrilled with them. Andrew Johnson was president after Lincoln was assassinated, and he was impeached because he was pretty weak. And then Grant was president, and he wasn't extremely strong. And the North is worried that if a Southern president gets into office, then they're going to basically enshrine Jim Crow laws as law. Well, that's probably a fair concern. So they want Hayes in as their man. So that's what the North wants. Well, what does the South want? Well, the South wants to end what's known as the Military Reconstruction Act. They want to get rid of the military districts that were implemented in the South. As a condition of ending the Civil War, the North said to the South, you're going to ratify the 13th and the 14th Amendments, which is going to say no more slavery and black people have the right to vote. And you're going to allow us to implement military districts, which means that we're going to rebuild southern capitals, and we're going to have the military oversee these new constitutions to ensure that the South is complying with federal law. Well, this was like having a babysitter in the South. They didn't want to lose the war. They didn't really think they had. If only they had more troops, they would have won, that sort of thing. And now here they've got the military standing guard, making sure that their policy, the South's policies and desires are not implemented. This is an affront. This is a really big slap in the face to the South. And so they say, okay, if we give you Rutherford B. Hayes, considering we could win this presidency with any one state going our way, if we give you Hayes and we ratify the 13th and 14th Amendments, we do all these things, you take back the military and let us run our states the way we want to, and don't look at it a second time. Just walk away. The North says, where do we sign? Done. And that is the compromise of 1877. The North gets their president, Rutherford B. Hayes. The South gets the end of Reconstruction. There's no more military districts. There's no more Big Brother overlooking them. And this becomes the instance when Jim Crow starts to take shape in the South. They can't discriminate against black people by law, but they can implement biases and policies that strongly favor white people and will lead to separate but equal and all these really terrible things that get enshrined by Plessy v. Ferguson and other Supreme Court decisions. But this is where it starts. It's with the Compromise of 1877, and some fair questions to ask. Was it worth it for each side? And they probably would have said yes because of the stakes. Does this align with Lincoln's vision for a post-war United States? Probably not. I would say probably not. Lincoln was very much a president by force, and he would not have allowed this, in my opinion. And I think, lastly, these two questions are sort of related to each other. Can warfare upend social prejudices? In other words, if you want people to feel differently about their fellow humans, is war the best way to go about that? And I don't have a better solution. But I think it's fascinating to consider that this was the solution put forward for a very long time and still is in a lot of ways. The war on terror is a war that the United States carried out starting in 2001 or 2003 or whenever it was. And so can war bring about social progress and change? I don't know. What do you think? You can find out more at apwithmrg.com.